told by a listener that says, I just wanted to give all of you the courage and strength. You who work in a senior position at a prestigious job and you're scared to give it up. I had a very high-paying job, but my workplace was spiritually unsuitable. I was very scared that I wouldn't find such a well-paying job, but I left. A while later, I found another job with a lower position and a lower salary. The peace and serenity and the new life I now have are worth more than all the money in the world. In the merit of all the stories I heard on the hotline, I had the strength to make such a change. Baruch Hashem. Today's Yichud Halacha is: situations of Yichud can arise when least expected, such as when a woman finds herself alone in a house with a repairman, a salesman, or a male guest. An office secretary could also run into that issue. And she must be especially careful to avoid Yichud, being alone in a house or in an office with a male boss, since most of the exclusion do not apply to her, since she is automatically more familiar with him. Modesty isn't just about covering up our bodies. It's about revealing our dignity. When I dress modest, I send a message to others that I view myself as royalty. When I act in a dignified manner, I'm portraying to others that I respect myself. And in return, people will respect me. As it says, Kol kevuda bat melech penima, memishpetzot zahav levusha. You know who's respected? A Jewish princess that dresses with a royal modest clothing. In order to be a princess, you need to have penima, inside focused. It's not enough to just be aware of it. It must be expressed by your modest dress code. Welcome to Inspiration on the Go. Today's story is told by a listener that says, I go to the park every afternoon with my children, and sometimes I transgress the prohibition of Lashon Hara. There are certain people that I frequently speak about. I took upon myself to listen to the story and the halacha on the hotline. I decided that I would give those people that I usually speak about the benefit of the doubt. I did a few things to help me along with my commitment. I bought a picture of the Chafetz Chaim and I hung it in my dining room. It helps remind me not to speak Lashon Hara. I also thought about the people that it is hard for me to judge favorably, and I decided to guard my tongue when speaking about them because that is my real connection to Hashem. Hashem assists a person to go along the path of his choice, and I was able to stop speaking Lashon Hara about them. Since then, I merited many Yeshuot. Baruch Hashem. Today's Yichud Halacha is Yichud, which is the prohibition of a woman staying alone with another man other than her husband, brother, son, or father. Yichud is permitted between younger children. Therefore, if a girl is younger than 12 and the boy is younger than 13, they are exempt from these prohibitions. The Sefer Devar Halacha 2.8 cites the Smag, who explains that there is no requirements of chinuch, religious training, for children with respect to Yichud. Once a girl reaches the age of 12, Yichud is permitted only with boys younger than 9. A woman is created more godlike. She's more spiritual by nature. A woman is created with the potential to be a creator through motherhood. The baby in her womb learns Torah all day with an angel. When a woman gives birth to a girl, it's usually a longer process than a boy to become pure, since a girl has more kedusha because she will carry children in the future. When kedusha leaves, tum'ah enters. Hashem is a giver. Women are on the highest level of a giver. Our job is to take care of the clothing, food, keeping the neat, clean house, raising the children. A woman can easily take shame and forgive her husband and children, especially when they are so unappreciative. Hashem is the same way. He forgives and suffers shame and loves us unconditionally and continues to give us even when when he's not appreciated. Only women are capable of giving and nurturing unconditionally without limits, sleepless nights, overwork, Shabbat, holidays. Therefore, a woman is considered more godlike, and that makes her holy. Welcome to Inspiration on the Go. Today's story is told by a listener that says, I have been connected to the Modesty Hotline, and I strengthen myself in modesty, and I also distribute the modesty brochures. I connected many women from the more modern community to the hotline. The hearts of everyone are open. At work, we were going through a tense period of quality control, and a review of our work. I took upon myself to listen to the story and the halacha on a daily basis and listen to the halacha of Shemirat HaLashon. The review was a major success beyond all expectations. I have no doubt that one who guards his tongue is protected from all tribulations. Unexpected things occur as a result of Shemirat HaLashon and keeping our modesty, and one merits an abundance of blessings. Today's workplace halacha is: the best situation for a workplace is that there should be a separate rooms for the men and the women. When separate rooms are not possible, despite all attempts, the men and women must sit at separate tables that are distant from each other. If there is a one-time need for one of them to see something on the other's computer, they must make sure to sit on a different side of the table. When this is not possible, they must at least make sure to sit with a recognizable distance apart from each other. At work-related meetings, there should be a complete separation for men and women. Do you ever see diamonds on shelves? Never. They are hidden behind display or in a safe with the best security system. A Jewish woman is like a diamond. Her outer beauty, which is a reflection of her inner value, needs protection. Therefore, Hashem, in His infinite kindness, has granted her the vital mitzvah of tzeniut, modesty, which conceals and protects her from the harmful outside and immoral world, which can possibly steal her precious and pure, holy neshama, chas v'shalom. Welcome to Inspiration on the Go. Today's story is told by a listener that says, my daughter and I listened together for 40 days to the story and the halacha on the Modesty Hotline. We took upon ourselves not to speak about any guests after they leave the house. I noticed that after guests leave, it's challenging not to speak about them. May we be zocheh to guard our tongues and merit many salvations. Today's workplace halacha is: an employer may praise a woman's work, but not give any compliments to her. He can say good, excellent, perfect job, but should not say you are smart, you are very talented, and so on. The same applies to a woman employee praising a work of a man. An employer may give out bonus gifts to all employees, men and women alike, as an appreciation for their work. In addition, add best wishes for Yom Tov, when it's done with a uniform and formal manner. However, he should not write a note that has a personal touch, even if he writes the same for each worker. The holier an item is, the more it needs to be covered. For example, a Sefer Torah, it has a cover, and then it's placed in the Aron, and then it gets locked and covered with curtains. A mezuzah has a cover, put into another cover, into another cover. Tefillin has a cover, and then another cover, and then another, and then inside a bag, inside another bag. Same thing with the Holy Temple. The luchot were put into 3 covers, then put into Kodesh HaKodashim with 2 shades in front of it. No one was allowed to enter Kodesh HaKodashim except the Kohen HaGadol, who was only allowed to enter once a year on Yom Kippur on the condition that he is holy and pure. A woman is considered holy, and therefore she is required to wear extra layers of covering and is required to dress modest. Welcome to Inspiration on the Go. Today's story is told by a listener that says, my son is scared of the dentist. He was suffering from a toothache and he needed to visit the dentist's office. I took upon myself to listen to the Shemirat HaLashon extension, and we got to the dentist. He sat there calmly and everything went very smoothly. When we left, he said to me, Ma, I don't know why I was so scared. It was actually so easy. Wow, I knew in my heart that this was in the merit of my commitment. Today's Yichud Halacha is: when a boy reaches the age of 13, Yichud, being alone with another girl or woman, is forbidden between him and girls over the age of 3. This is written in Shulchan Aruch, Ibn Ezer 22:11. A girl over the age of 12 may not babysit for a boy over the age of 9 if Yichud will be unavoidable. Shulchan Aruch, Ibn Ezer 22:11, Sefer Devar Halacha 110 and 27. If other kids that are old enough to report if something goes wrong and they're staying up with the babysitter, then it's okay. The right thing to do is always ask a rabbi when in doubt. Tzeniut is one of the highest levels of Kedusha, and it helps obtain the highest possible reward. David HaMelech says in Ruach HaKodesh, in Shemuel 6:2, Ve'im ha'ima'ot asher amarta, imam achabeda. If I will merit to be with the maidservants that you have mentioned, I will be honored. The Midrash in Bamidbar Rabbah 4:20 states regarding this pasuk something remarkable. David HaMelech was really talking about the world to come. If only my portion in the world to come will be with the Jewish mother who is modest, I will be honored. David HaMelech, the most holy man ever lived, the Yedid Hashem, knew with Ruach HaKodesh that the loftiest level a human can reach in this world is through modesty. He felt that a Jewish mother represents the loftiest level one can reach in this world. Through her modesty, she could receive the highest possible reward in the world to come. I would like to add to this that David HaMelech said this at a time in history where dressing modest wasn't as hard as it is in our day and age. You can just imagine our joy and happiness when we will reap our rewards in the world to come. As it says in regards to the Eshet Chayil, Oz v'hadar levusha, v'titzchak leyom acharon. Oz v'hadar. She's dressed in strength and dignity, and she laughs without fear of the final day. Not only will she be overjoyed in the world to come, this is also referring to the coming of the Mashiach, a woman who went out of her way to dress modest even when it was very hot outside. Or maybe she had to endure the sweating or the social pressure that was around her. She will be overjoyed for every drop of sweat because those drops will eventually turn into dew that will bring her back at the time of the Chiyat HaMetim, the resurrection of the dead, and the coming of the Mashiach. Welcome to Inspiration on the Go. Today's story is told by a listener that says, I have a son with autism. He communicates his feelings and needs through a computer. Earlier this week, we were told by his school that he didn't look well. He didn't eat or drink, and he was into himself. We asked our son what happened. He told us in tears. He's not the type to cry at all. I want to tell you that in a few days I will say goodbye to you. I have finished my mission in this world. He told us the date and the time of his death. It was this coming Shabbat. He said that it will be a mitat neshika, a painless death, as if by a kiss. Since then, he started to say goodbye to us. He prepared us an exact plan for the whole week until the farewell, what to announce and to whom. He told us to go to the kotel, read Tehillim, put on tefillin, and many other important details. He also apologized to everyone and wrote farewell letters to each and every member of the family. He wrote to us what he thinks of each one of us and what each one of us needs to fix about themselves. He told us that it is very important to be careful with interpersonal relationships and to be united. In addition, he said that he was very scared of Hashem for possibly harming the family members and others. He asked forgiveness from everyone, and we begged forgiveness of him. He asked us to let the school know that he's going through a rough time and therefore he's unable to eat, and that they should leave him alone. He told us not to let anyone else know what is about to happen. We also told him that we want to do everything possible to nullify the decree. I went to Kivrei Tzadikim and we asked him, maybe if we do more good deeds, the decree will nullify. Maybe we should turn to great rabbis who will redeem his souls. He replied that in his case it will not help because he isn't sick. His mission was completed and nothing can help. He said, do not make any effort for me because I do not want you to be disappointed. We told him that we got the whole family to subscribe to the Modesty Hotline for his Yeshua, and everyone took upon themselves a Kabbalah. He responded saying, that's a wonderful news. If you really want, you can keep adding women to the Modesty Hotline. But in my case, there is no hope. We knew that Shabbat was his time to say goodbye to the world. I told him, I believe there will be a great miracle on Motzei Shabbat. We will go to the Kotel, Be'ezrat Hashem. All Shabbat we tried to be happy. We sang and danced with him, just like at the event. He thanked us very much for making him happy before his death. The truth is, deep down inside, we were very scared of what was about to happen. During that fateful night, when he was supposed to die, he went into his room and we said with him, Shema Israel, with much kavanah. Then we departed from him, waited for him to fall asleep, and then closed the door. We waited for the morning with bated breath. I said Mizmor LeTodah. I knew in my heart that the Modesty Hotline is something great and that Hashem does miracles beyond nature. I promised that if he remains alive, I will scream Ein Od Milevado. We were prepared for the worst. My husband prepared in advance the laws of mourning and what to do on Shabbat. He kept the phone handy just in case. In the morning, we were so scared. We entered the room shaking at 8 a.m. in the morning. We saw him lying in bed, folded backwards, with his mouth open, pale and white. We weren't sure if he was alive. Suddenly, we saw a movement, and we realized that the miracle did indeed happen. I screamed, Ein Od Milevado. During Shabbat, he was confused and disconcerted. We went with him to the Kotel on Motzei Shabbat to thank Hashem, just as we promised. When we got home, we asked him, what do you think shook the heavens so that you came back to us? He wrote to us by computer, which is the only way he could express himself accurately. He told us how his soul went out of his body, exactly at the time set for him to go to heaven. He related that his neshama went up to heavens, to the world that is all good. He saw the great intense light, and he didn't want to come back. He continued, you should know that when your time comes after 120, when you see the strong light, you will not want to come back. Although I wanted to stay up in heavens, Hashem thought otherwise. I was told that because my family made such a big deal in the earth below, and all the Kabbalot were accepted, it shook the heavens. I saw like a movie how everyone below was listening to the Modesty Hotline. I asked that everyone continue listening to the lessons of modesty, even when there is no tzarot. In the merit of the listening to the Modesty Hotline, I was granted with life. Please carry on listening to the lessons, even if they are for the merit of people you don't even know. It really saves people's lives. It's unbelievable. The mother ended of her story. I want to thank all those who accepted upon themselves Kabbalah, and all the people who davened and prayed for my son and brought about a huge Yeshua. Today's Yichud Halacha is Yichud, which is the prohibition against a woman and a man staying alone in a place where they won't be disturbed is from the Torah. Yichud between a man and a young girl who has not yet reached puberty is rabbinic. A rabbi should always be consulted when in doubt. The Maharal Miprag wrote the following: Harei shenishtabhu haimaot bifrat hatzeniut, ki ikar shebach haisha umadragata ha'elyona hi hatzeniut. Throughout our Torah, women were primarily praised in the area of modesty because the epitome of praise of a woman and her elevated stature is measured by her modesty. If we pay attention to our imahot, they were praised and rewarded primarily for their modesty. That's because the ultimate distinction of a woman and her greatness is measured by her perfection in the area of modesty. Welcome to Inspiration on the Go. Today's story is told by a listener that says, my son was having a hard time hearing recently. I thought to myself that perhaps it's related to the commitment I had taken upon myself in Shemirat HaLashon that I was having a hard time being consistent about. I took him to an ear doctor and she said that everything looks fine. She suggested that I take him for a hearing test. I decided that it is easier for me to listen to the hotline regarding Shemirat HaLashon so I could feel like I'm strengthened. The day I started listening, a miracle occurred. My son began hearing perfectly fine, as if nothing had ever happened. Wow, the power of a commitment. Today's Yichud Halacha is, we need to make sure that whenever we make babysitting arrangements, we must take the laws of Yichud into consideration. Therefore, it is forbidden to leave a girl over the age of 3 in charge of a male babysitter over the age of 13, except under the conditions where there's other kids in the house that are older and are going to be staying up. Ibid Rav Y.S. Elyashiv Zatzal and Rav C.P. Steinberg Shalita. The root of the word seni'u means to conceal, both in behavior, speech, and dress. This is how a woman can reap the greatest rewards both in this world and in the world to come. Examples are Sarah Imenu, Ayeh Sarah Ishtecha. Where is Sarah your wife? Rashi asks, Why are the angels asking where she was? They knew exactly where she was. And he answers, Lahagdilat Shalom. The angels were praising her modesty so she could find favor in her husband's eyes. Through this merit, she became worthy of becoming the mother of Yitzchak Avinu. Rivka Imenu, when she saw Yitzchak, she covered her face. Her modesty was evident because the Shekhinah came back to her tent that previously belonged to Sarai Imenu, who passed away. She merited to become the mother of Yaakov Avinu. Rachel Imenu humbled herself and gave up her future husband in order not to embarrass her sister. She merited to have Yosef and Binyamin, even though she was barren. In her zechu, the Jews will be redeemed and merit the rebuilding of the third temple. Esther HaMalkah kept her Jewish identity hidden, according to the command of her uncle Mordechai, even though Achashverosh begged her to reveal it, and even though he offered her a lot of money and fame for her family and nation, she refused to reveal her identity. Through her modesty, she merited to save an entire Jewish nation from annihilation. Wow, the power of modesty. Welcome to Inspiration on the Go. Today's story is told by a listener that says, about a year ago, we bought an apartment for one of our married children. The last and biggest payment was supposed to be delivered the day before Bedikat Chametz. We were paying other debts at the time, and we weren't able to come up with such a large sum of money. This was in addition to the normal added expenses of Erev Yom Tov. It was so hard to bear, and the worrisome burden. So I prayed a lot, and I thought about what I can take upon myself in addition to my previous commitments in modesty. I continued listening to the hotline on a daily basis, and I took upon myself to be more careful about not talking anything directly to another man. Unbelievably, we started getting money from different gemachim, and we almost had the entire amount. Then we received a message that we could push off the last payment until after Pesach. I am sure that Hashem, in His infinite mercy, will continue to help us. Today's Yichud Halacha is, when a father visits his married son and stays in his home, there is no prohibition of Yichud between him and his daughter-in-law as long as the son is in the same city. He must not, however, act in too familiar fashion with his daughter-in-law. If his son is not in the city, he may remain in the house with his daughter-in-law during the day as long as the front door is left open, or if the neighbors are given permission to enter unannounced. This is based on the ruling of Hagaon Rav Shlomo Zalman Obrach.